This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, I get the Hamoed, get Yom Tif, I get the Kvittel. So this is already, I think, the 10th year that we're Zoche to get together. We started this many years ago. I don't know how it's possible that so many years pass by. I want to thank this year again Rabbi Glatstein, who's already, I think he has been doing this for about a Shemitah already. And usually we do it outside in the Sukkah. But one of the last times we spoke of that Mitztayer being pater from the Sukkah. The Chidah says is a raya that we're banim lamakim. Right? Because the Chidah says, what other mitzvah Mitztayer is pater? Every other mitzvah Mitztayer is chayiv. Who would be, if you gave someone a job to do, and you said, but if it's hard, you don't have to do it. Nobody would say that. Only a tata would say to his son, okay, if you're Mitztayer, you're pater. So now, this year, after that Shiur, we want to show that even though normally you think Mitztayer is pater, it's a siman klala, but after the Chidah, it's a siman bracha. It shows that we're banim lamakim. So we thank Rabbi Yankel. Actually, last year's Shiur had a tremendous bracha. Because when I came last year, Rabbi Yaakov's son, I was speaking to him, and we quoted some Svarim. Last year's Shiur was about Sukkos in Bavel. So Rav Moshe was going to Bavel. We had just been in Bavel. So I said, I want to go to Turkey. Vitaka, at this get-together, at this masiba, I was Zoicha, I met Rabbi Yaakov's son, and he took me to Turkey this year. I went to the kever of Chaim Falaji. So maybe we'll see where we're going this year. But we thank Rabbi Yankel for opening up his Beis. Be'ez Hashem, the Beis should continue to be Harchivi Mekoim Ahalech for Simchas and Nachas, Gezint, and Be'ez Hashem, more Svarim from the Ar Mufla, and this Makom should be a Makom of Hashras Hashchina, and Mimali Hashem Kol Mashalas Libchem L'Toiva. And I also thank Rabbi Sechardoi for starting the Minhag Toiv. I think maybe the first time we did it was Chanukah.
We did it after Chanukah.
First was Sukkos, and then was Chanukah. Okay, so this is an idea that was brewing for maybe a few years, but I wasn't sure where it was going, and this was not the plan. The plan was to take what we did with the Chidah maybe 2 years ago and take it further. And I have that in the back pocket, and last night I had an idea and I switched it in the last second. Tonight we're going to talk about the Vilna Gaon. By the way, the only time Rav Nachman and the Gaon are Shchenim is on Sukkos. Yep. Last night was the Yahrtzeit of Rav Nachman. Tonight is the Yahrtzeit of the what? Of the Vilna Gaon. Very interesting. The Gaon was born in the year Tafpei, 480. That's 1720. Tafpei. Now, Tafpei is a very important number when it comes to Sukkos. First of all, the first Beis HaMikdash was built in the year Tafpei, 480. And the Chidah says the reason why it's built in the year 480 is Keneged Lamed Yud Taf. The Malach, the Shidduch of the Samach Mem was married to, so we know we're talking about Lilis. 480 in Kedusha corresponds to 480 in Tumah. So the ultimate Kedusha is 480. So the first Beis HaMikdash was built in a time which is called Isahara B'Ashlei Musa, when the moon was full. In other words, when the pinnacle of Kedusha. So the Gaon's light also began to shine in the year of Tafpei. Just very interesting. Hoshana Rabbah is the 480th hour, Chassam Sofer says, of Sukkos. So all Inyani Kedusha are connected to the number 480, and the Gaon was born in the year 480. He was born on the first day of Pesach. Now, the Gaon has a chiddush that I don't think in the last 1,000 years there has been a chiddush like this that has so changed anything, that has so changed a Yom Tif or a mitzvah as this chiddush of the Gaon. This chiddush of the Gaon is one of the most important chidushim said legabe any Yom Tif, vadai the most important chiddush legabe the Yom Tif of Sukkos, and it's kamad, it's a pele that nobody ever said this chiddush. What's the chiddush? It's something that we're probably all familiar with. The Torah asks the famous kasha. The Torah asks, if the reason why we sit in the Sukkos is to commemorate the Ananei HaKavod, which are L'man yedu dorei seichem, ki b'Sukkos hoshafti es b'nei Yisrael, v'yotzei oisam eretz Mitzrayim, and we know the Rebbe Shem gave us the Ananei HaKavod in Nisan, so why do we sit in the Sukkos in Tishrei? We should sit in the Sukkos in Nisan. That's the famous kasha of the Torah, Taf Siman Taf Reish Chafei. And the Torah famously answers that if we would sit in the Sukkah in Nisan, it wouldn't be nicker that we're sitting in the Sukkah l'shem mitzvah. Maybe we're just going outside to enjoy the weather. So therefore, we wait till the rainy season, when typically people go indoors, and we go outdoors, so it's nicker, we're going out for the mitzvah. Yeah? Which, b'chlal, the Torah is a pella. So what, it's not nicker? Who does it have to be nicker to? Who does it have to be recognizable to? Persume Nisa? There's no Persume Nisa by mitzvah d'oraisa. There's no Persume Nisa. Not by matzah, there's no Persume Nisa. There's not by shofar, there's no Persume, not by Shabbos. So who does it have to be nicker to? The person? Anyway, mitzvah strichas kavana. You need to be mechavin what you're doing. So once you're mechavin what you're doing, who does it have to be nicker to? The children? You have to be mechavin, I'm doing the mitzvah. I have to be mechavin, l'man yedu dorei seichem. Why does it need to be nicker? Who does it need to be nicker to? So we spoke about this a little in the world of the Chidah, that the Rebbe Shem wanted to be nisparsim that were banam lamakayim. That's the answer of the Torah. The Gra in Shir Hashirim, Parak Aleph, Pasuk Daled, famously answers the Torah. This is such an important Gra. This Gra revolutionizes the Yom Tov of Sukkos. Says the Gra. There's another kasha you could ask. Shloisha parnasim hayu Yisrael. Moshe, Aaron, Miriam. B'schus Moshe we had the man. What Yom Tov do we have celebrating the man? No Yom Tov. What Yom Tov do we have celebrating the Be'er? No Yom Tov. And all of a sudden, Ananei HaKavod, we celebrate Ananei HaKavod. Why do we celebrate Ananei HaKavod? Why don't we celebrate the man and the Be'er? Famous kasha. Chidah gives many answers. The Bnei Yissaschar quotes 3 answers of the Chidah, and he explains how each answer fits into the pasuk. One answer is, we only celebrate Ananei HaKavod because Ananei HaKavod was a luxury, not a necessity. All the other man and be'er were necessities. Ananei HaKavod was a luxury. So the Bnei Yissaschar puts into the pasuk, L'man yedu dorei seichem, ki ani Hashem, midas hachesed, midas harachamim, not midas hadin. Or, man and be'er came through complaining. But Ananei HaKavod Hashem gave on His own. So L'man yedu dorei seichem, ki b'Sukkos hoishavti, I did it on my own without complaining. Or man and be'er what? Say, yeah, good. Man and be'er were to everybody, even to the Erev Rav. But Ananei HaKavod only to Klal Yisrael proper. Yes? B'nei Yisrael. Okay, so the Chidah, the Bnei Yisrael puts all 3 perushim of the Chidah into the pasuk. But Lamaisa, the Gra gives a different answer. Says the Gaon, we don't have a Yom Tov, and I know you know this. This is just Hakdama. We don't have Yom Tovim to celebrate miracles. Miracles. In the Beis HaMikdash, there were 10 miracles every day. There's not one Yom Tov to celebrate any of those miracles. When we left Mitzrayim, we had Ananei HaKavod. But then when Klal Yisrael sinned at the Egel, the Ananei HaKavod were nostalgic. Okay, that's the Chiddush of the Gaon. Targum on Shir Hashirim also says this. The Nasu Hatzilalim, that the Ananei HaKavod left. But the Gra brings this Chiddush, the Ananei HaKavod left by the Chet HaEgel. And then Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to try to get Slicho Mechila. Yeah? So he goes up to Har Sinai the day after Shavas B'Tammuz, and he comes down Erev Rosh Chodesh Elul. And the Rebbe Shem says, okay, let's try again. So Moshe Rabbeinu goes up Rosh Chodesh Elul. He comes down on Yom Kippur, and the Rebbe Shem says, Salachti Kidvarecha. Klal Yisrael look up to the Shamayim. There's no Ananei HaKavod. So the Rebbe Shem says, I forgive you, I'm Moichel Zayin, but I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Just if, imagine like this. You have a best friend. Your best friend insults you. So then he comes to Erev Yom Kippur, and he he asks you for mechila. So machalach, machal, machal. So then a few days later, you said, no, let's go chalamoid together. No, I don't want to go chalamoid together. I thought you're meichel me. I'm meichel you, but I'm not your friend anymore. I'm meichel, I have no tightness on you, but I don't want to spend time with you. That's what happened after Yom Kippur. So Klal Yisrael was devastated after Yom Kippur. They got mechila, but they didn't get ritzoy. Yeah? So the Gaon says, on the 11th of Tishrei, Moshe Rabbeinu gave the tzivoy to build the Mishkan. And on the 12th and the 13th, they brought nedavos, ba'boiker. Yeah? And on the 14th, vayikale ha'amei havi, they brought enough. And on the 15th, when they built the Mishkan, the Ananei HaKavod came back on the Mishkan. Says the Gaon, Sukkos is not a celebration of the Nes of Ananei HaKavod. Sukkos celebrates the return of the Ananei HaKavod. Okay? Everybody knows that, yeah? Everyone's familiar with that. Lamaisa, the nephew of the Gaon, the Avodas HaGershuni, he brings from his uncle. So I also want to welcome my uncle, Tzvi Hirschfang, who comes all the years. And I remember this is such a tradition of getting together with the Olam that I was even Zoicha one year that my Zaydu was able to come. So, and I know in the picture, in the Sukkah, there's a picture even, right? Of the Chadesh of the Yemei Kedem when everybody was able to come. So, the Avodas HaGershuni brings that his uncle, the Gaon, said that on the 15th of Nisan, the Ananei HaKavod came back. And this is what David HaMelech says, V'hinoyam Hashem Elokeinu Aleinu, that the pleasantness, the Shechina, came down on the Mishkan. And what's the kapitel right after V'hinoyam? Yoshev B'seiser Elyon B'tseil Shaka Yislein on Sukkah. So right after V'hinoyam, you have Sukkah. Somebody asked me this year, is there any basis that Yoshev B'seiser Elyon refers to the Sukkah? He says he wanted to say Yoshev B'seiser Elyon B'tseil Shaka Yislein. There are two dimensions of the Sukkah, physical, spiritual. I said, I think you need a ride, but here the Avodas HaGershuni is saying Beferish, Yoshev B'seiser Elyon is referring to the Sukkah. But then it hit me, what kapitel is Yoshev B'seiser Elyon? Sadi Aleph, Sukkah. So I saw Rabbi Kiva Yosef Schlesinger, at the end of one of his letters, he says, the fact that Yoshev B'seiser is kapitel Sadi Aleph is a raya that's referring to the Sukkah. Interesting. Okay, that's the Gaon. Okay, everyone's familiar with the Gaon. By the way, the Gaon, yeah.
There's a big connection with Tzikos and the Gaon. Tzikos is Masib Husayni. We have to be happy. The Gaon said the difficult mitzvah in the Torah is to be b'simcha. Can you give us a few explanations how to become b'simcha? The Gaon said it's the most difficult mitzvah. In Tzikos we have to be. It's Masib Husayni.
Very good. Actually, I'm happy you pointed that out. What's the Rav's name?
My name is Pinchas Yosef, Rabbi Schwartz.
Reb Pinchas Yosef did me a very big favor because I have charata. I saw that from the Gaon today, and in the papers it didn't make it to the sheet. So I have siyata d'shmaya that you were madgish it. I want to say that last night was the Yahrtzeit of Reb Nachman of Breslov. My Zayda had an uncle in Poland who was a Breslov chassid. So my Zayda had Likutei Moharan and would speak about Likutei Moharan. And so I looked up last night, Mitzvah Gedola Liyos B'Simcha. That's of course Reb Nachman. I didn't know where exactly is that. Where is that? So it's in the second chelek of Likutei Moharan. And Likutei Moharan says, human nature, default of human nature is to be ba'atzvos. In other words, unless you're misgaber over the natural state, default is atzvos. He calls marash chayra. In other words, natural state, a person is going to be depressed. You have to be, and now Rav Nachman had a very hard life. His wife passed away. He had 3 children who passed away. He had tuberculosis for 3 years, and he had to be misgaber over a lot of redifus and emotional difficulty, a lot of challenges. And he writes about it. It's a big avoida. It's a big avoida. That's what the Gaon says. A tremendous avoida. It's not. Some people by nature they're happy, but that's the personality. That's not what it's talking about. It's an avoida. By the way, the hardest time of the year to be b'simcha is Sukkos. Why? Because it's a mitzvah to be happy. It's like Erev Yom Kippur. All of a sudden, you get the biggest hischazkus and limud Torah. You ever notice that? The biggest hasmada is Erev Yom Kippur. Why? Because you have to eat. So the biggest challenge of Simcha is on Sukkos. Sukkos is the hardest day to be. Okay, but I want to continue on the theme that you mentioned, the connection between the Gra and Sukkos. Okay, that's the subject of today's share. The connection between the Gra and Sukkos. Okay, so far we know, according to the Gra, that Sukkos is not the miracle of Ananei HaKavod, it's the return of the Ananei HaKavod. Yeah? The return of the Ananei HaKavod. There's another Gaon that's not so well known in Adaras Eliyahu. The Gaon in Adaras Eliyahu, in Parshas Kisisa, the Gaon writes that the Rebbeinu Shalom tells Klal Yisrael, Hine anoichi koires bris, neged kol amcha ese niflois. Moshe Rabbeinu is the spell. V'neflinu ani v'amcha. Says the Gaon, the v'neflinu is the Ananei HaKavod, is the Shechina on Klal Yisrael. Now, the Gaon says a very big chiddush, that even though the Ananei HaKavod were present with Klal Yisrael when they left Mitzrayim, he says, Lo yehoya ela lefi shatoi. It was temporary. They didn't have permanent Ananei HaKavod. Now he doesn't say because it left by the Egel. They didn't have like kviyistik Ananei HaKavod yet. And not all of Klal Yisrael had Ananei HaKavod. The Gaon says, Rak Hanavim. If you look in the second column, like the 10th line, the Gaon says, Af shehalach ha'ono lefneim b'yitzayasam miMitzrayim, lo hoya ela l'shato yad hayam. It was only temporary till the Yam. By the Yam, it left. Nothing to do with the Chet HaEgal. So it doesn't seem like this is fully consistent with what the Gaon says in Shir Shirim. And the Gaon says it was only L'Neviim. But when the Ananei HaKavod came back on the Mishkan, it was Bikvius and it was L'chol Yisrael. Look what the Gaon says. V'zeh shekasav le'enei kol beis Yisrael b'chol ma'aseihem v'zu hi ha'pela hagadol. That's when Moshe Rabbeinu was mispalel v'niflinu ani v'amcha mikol ha'am. And now it's v'ra kol ha'am. So in other words, the Gaon is saying that until the Mishkan, number one, it was not b'kvius, it was only l'shatoi. And number two, it was not to everybody, it was only to the Nevi'im. So that's not fully consistent with what the Gaon says in Shir Shirim. In Shir Shirim he says, Ananei HaKavod left. It just left. But until it left, it sounds like it was permanent. Now the Gaon is saying, number one, it wasn't even permanent before it left, and number two, it wasn't for everybody, it was only for the Nevi'im. So the first thing is just an interesting point. Rabbi Yashiv had the Zayda, the Baal HaLeshem. Yeah? Rabbi Shlomo Elyashiv. He was one of the greatest Mekubalim of the Kabbalah of the Vilna Gaon. And he brings a kasha on the Vilna Gaon. He says, that the Gaon writes in Adaras Eliyahu, that until the Yam it was only Lefi Shatoi and it wasn't to everybody. First of all, he says it's not consistent with what the Zohar says, that immediately when they left Mitzrayim, they had kaviyus of Ananei HaKavod, and it was for everybody. And the Baal HaLeshem says, anyone who's meyashev the gra, roiv brachos yanuach haroishai. In other words, the Gra says a very interesting chiddush. The Gra says that aside from this idea that the Ananei HaKavod left by the Chet HaEgal, the Gaon says, Bichlal, the whole inyan of Ananei HaKavod was flimsy and only to the Nevi'im until the Mishkan. That the Baal HaLeshem says is not mavur in the Zohar, and if anyone could answer it, Yanuach brachos al roshai. But I just want to point out how the Gra completely revolutionizes the Yom Tov of Sukkos. Until the Gra say, why are we sitting in the Sukkah now? Really, this is not when the miracle happened. The miracle happened 6 months ago. Why now? So it should be nicker. According to the Gaon, no. The whole simcha of Sukkos is that a person could do an avera. Ad kedei kach, the Rebbeinu Shalom leaves them. And by doing tshuva, not only is Hashem mechaper, the Rebbeinu Shalom, according to the Gaon, is closer to the person even than before the chet. Because before the chet, it was only lefi shatoi and only to the Nevi'im. And now, people who were never zoicha to this hashras hashchina are zoicha to the hashras hashchina b'kviyos. What a beautiful Yom Tov. Think about it. Look at the koyach of tshuva. That tshuva could make a person be zoicha to something that they weren't even zoicha to before the chet. It changes the whole Yom Tov. By the way, in the Siddur Hagra he brings, and this is also, it's revolutionary. Siddur Hagra brings, Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim. The Rebbeinu Shalom chose us from all the nations when? On Pesach. Ahavta Isanu, the Rebbeinu Shalom showed His love for us when? When He gave us the Torah on Shavuos. V'ratzisa banu. Ratzoin is a lashon of being appeased after kas. When was the Rebbeinu Shalom v'ratzisa banu? Sukkos. According to the Gaon, the whole lashon of the Anshe Knesset Gdoila is mavur. Until the Gaon, you say the words of the tefillah. When did Hashem choose us? When did He love us? When did He show ratzon to us? And now we see this is the Iker Yesod of the Shalosh Regalim. Ata v'chartanu is Pesach. Ahavta Isanu is Sukkos. Ahavta Isanu is Shavuos. V'ratzisa banu is Sukkos. I mean, the Gaon opened up the whole hezber, the whole biur of the Yom Tov. I mean, I remember when I first heard the Gaon, I thought, until now, the meaning of Sukkos was here, and now the Gaon opened up the whole Yom Tov 200 years ago. Can you imagine such a thing? You would think this is a Gemara, or I don't know, a Rishon. 200 years ago, all of a sudden Sukkos is a completely different Yom Tov. Furthermore, now the Chassam Sofer says similar to the Gaon. Chassam Sofer is in Masechta Sukkah Yud Aleph from Beis, and in his drashos in the year Tav Kuf Tzadihei. Listen to what the Chassam Sofer says. Toysus Sachim asks, and Daf Kuf Yud Chesam Beis, Rabbi Shua ben Levi, women are chayiv in Dalit Kosos because Afin Hoyi B'Oisa Anes. Frek Toysvis, so why are Noshim chayiv in Sukkah Afin Hoyi B'Oisa Anes? Yeah? Says Chassam Sofer, no. Because the Yom Tov of Sukkos is not celebrating Anani HaKavod, it's celebrating the return of the Anani HaKavod. Why did Anani HaKavod leave? Because of Chera Egel. But the ladies never sinned by the Egel. So Chassam Sofer says that Anani HaKavod never left them. It was only poilate the men. The Gaon Taka says it left completely. The Chassam Sofer says the Nashim had the Anani HaKavod the whole time. So there's no reason for women to sin the Sukkah. So somebody asked me, any Leviim here? Kohanim? Leviim should also be pater from Sukkah. Because the Anani HaKavod didn't leave them, so they shouldn't sin the Sukkah. The answer is Ein Chanami. Leviim don't sit in the Sukkah because of Afim Hoya B'Oisei Anes. They sit in the Sukkah because the Torah says you have to sit in the Sukkah. The only thing is, Nashim are pater because it's man grama. Elamai, you want to be mechayiv them because Afin Hoya B'Anes? No, we don't say Afin Hoya B'Anes. So this is all based on the Gaon. By the way, based on the Gaon, we have a Pashat answer. Why don't we celebrate the Man? Because we don't celebrate Nisim. Why don't you celebrate the Be'er? You don't celebrate Nisim. So why do we say Anani HaKavod? We're not celebrating the miracle, we're celebrating the fact that after Tshuva, the Rebbeinu Shalom was Nespayes and he showed the Ahava to Klal Yisrael more than before the Chet. Fine. This is all the Gaon. So I think it's a Pella. Imagine the Gaon came 200 years ago, and he just, the Chidush of the Gaon is like is an earthquake, yeah? Reb Pinchas pointed out the Gra is very connected to Sukkah. So let's speak about that. First of all, in the Ma'aser Rav, he brings Hagoin Hoya Sameach Ma'oid B'Chag HaSukkos. The Gaon had unusual Simcha on Sukkos. Reb Chaim Volozhiner, in his commentary to the Shiltis, he brings that one time on the third day of Sukkos, the Gra was young, he was young, he was very happy. He was very happy. So his Tata and Mama said, "Why are you so happy?" He said, "Because it's the Shpizin of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu just came down and he gave me a kiss." What else do we know about the Gaon on Sukkos? The Gaon opened up everything on Sukkos. You know, the Mishnah says that if it rains on Sukkos, mashal l'mahadavar doimeh, to an eved that comes to pour a kois for the master, the shafach loy kitoin al panav. Yeah? The Mishnah says that what is rain on Sukkos like? Somebody who's coming to dilute the cup for the master, and the eved comes, and the eved comes to dilute the cup for the master pours it in his face. So the Gaon on his parish on the Zohar, it's also brought in the regular, on the Kol Doidi. The Gaon says like this, what's the mashal? The mashal is, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur are Yemei Hadin, Midas Hadin. And the Kais is 86, Elikim is Midas Hadin. So on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Midas Hadin comes. So we come with Sukkos, which is Mayim, to be mamtik the dinim, to bring rachamim into the din. So by sitting in the sukkah, it sweetens the din. So when the Rebbe Shem doesn't let us sit in the sukkah, it's like coming to dilute the yayin. Yayin is midas hadin. Mayim is rachamim. So the master takes the water and he pours out the water. He's saying, I don't want you to be mamtik the dinim. Again, this is the Gaon. The Gaon opens up. Here I have a Mishnah. The Mishnah is Mamisha, Mishnah Sosum. And the Gaon, opens the door. There's another amazing Gaon on Sukkos. If you look at number 10, the Gaon says in the psukim that we learn in the 7 days of Sukkos. So on day 1 we say Seirizim. On day 2 we say Seirizim. On day 4 we say Seirizim, and that's it. On day 3, 5, 6, and 7 we just say Sa'ir, right? What's pshat? You'd say, I don't know, which Gemara talks about it? What does Rashi say? What do the Rishonim say? Nobody says anything. 200 years ago, the Gaon came along, he opened up the Shamayim, he said that the 70 Parim brought on Sukkos are Keneged the Shivim Umay Sa'il, the 70 nations. The 2 chief nations are Yishmael and Esav. Yishmael, the Zohar calls Seirizim, Esav is Sa'ir. Okay? So on day 1, how many parim do you bring? 13. On day 2, you bring 12, 25. We need to have 35 for Yishmael and 35 for Esav. So if it's going to be day 3, 11 for Yishmael, it's going to be 36. So we got to skip day 3, and we go to day 4, 13, 12, 10. That's 35 for Yishmael. Day 3 is 11, Sa'ir. Day 5 is 9, 20. Day 6 is 8, 28. Day 7 is 7, 35, 35, and 35. This is all the Gaon on Sukkos. All of these in Yanim, nobody else said before the Gaon. Ad Kedei Kach, the Gaon, 2 very good stories about the Gaon. The Mishnah says, Al tiyu kavadam shamshin as harav, al manasa kabal pras, ella havu kavadam shamshin as harav, shaloy al manasa kabal pras. Rabbeinu Yonah brings a girsa, al manas, shaloy l'kabal pras. Serve Hashem on condition not to get reward. And Rabbeinu Yonah wonders, you should serve Hashem. I understand you're not thinking about the reward, but you should be mechavin only on condition not to get the reward. So the story goes that one year it was very hard to get an esrog in Vilna. Usually they would send out shlichim in the middle of the summer to go to the far out lands to get an esrog. Nobody could get an esrog. And they found an esrog with one oisher. And they were ready to pay him a big sum, and he didn't want to give up the esrog. So they finally, Magal, look, this is not for us. We're buying it for Rabban Shel Kol Bnei Agoyla, Rabbi Yomi Vilna. He said, Azoi, here's the esrog. So they offered to pay him. He said, no, I'm not taking any money. One thing I ask you, that the schar of the Gaon's mitzvah should go to me. That's all I want. They said, no, we'll pay you whatever you want, but we can't offer you the Gaon's schar. He said, I don't want money. I don't need money. So they had no choice. They took the esrog and they promised the Gaon's schar. And they're walking back to Vilna with mixed feelings. On the one hand, they're very happy they got an esrog, and on the other hand, what are they going to tell the Gaon? So they break the news to the Gaon. The Gaon was besimcha atzuma. The Gaon says, you think I do the mitzvah for schar? My whole life I wanted to be able to do a mitzvah al menas shaloi lekabel pras. And now I finally have the opportunity. That's the version in the Sefer of Reb Tzvi Yecheskel Michelson. In the Sefer HaGoyin HaChassid MiVilna, they bring a different version that a Christian woman had hadassim, and they couldn't pry the hadassim away from her. They offered her money. She didn't want the money. They said, this is for Rabbi Elijah Kramer. They said, really? Fine, but only if I could get his reward in the world to come. And they gave up his reward in the world to come, and they got hadassim for the Vilna Gaon, and he was very happy. Now, the Gaon was makbid to hold lulav and esrog kol hayoim kuloi meinei tzachama ad shkia. By the Gaon there was shkia.
Is this written?
Yeah, in the Aliyah Eliyahu. The Gaon was makbid to hold the lulav and esrog the whole day. At the end of his life, he was very weak in the month of Tishrei, and especially on the Yom Tov of Sukkos. And that last Sukkos of his life, he did not let go of the lulav and esrog. The Gaon was nifter holding the lulav and esrog. If you look at number 15, Rabbi Yisachar Doiv, V'ani shamati she'achaz b'tzitziyosav. Aber, the first version was that he was holding the lulav and esrog. And in fact, that last year of his life, one of the shlichim told the Gra, either that they found the lulav and esrog in Parsha, or they found the lulav and esrog in China. And the Gra started crying. And turned out they realized, the Gra saw that esrog would be his very last esrog. So that's why he was crying when they told him that they found this esrog. But the Gra was nifter holding the lulav and esrog. It seems like Reb Pinchas said, there's a special connection the Vilna Gaon had with the Yom Tov of Sukkos. The Gaon was besimcha atzuma on Sukkos. The Gaon received a neshika from Yaakov Avinu on the Yom Tov of Sukkos. What the Gaon opened up on Sukkos, I would venture to say, nobody opened up such psachim in any inyan, I don't know, maybe for 1,000 years. I mean, what would Sukkos be without the Gaon? Now, do you think it's a coincidence that the Gaon was nifter on Sukkos? Of course not. There's a beautiful medrash. We're going to be learning Koheles on Shabbos. The Koheles says, Divrei chachomim kador voinois. The words of the sages are like pegs. Uchemas merois natuim balei asupos. And like nails, nidnu meiroya echad. That the words of the chachamim are like pegs, like nails. Says the medrash, when are the words of the chachamim like nails and like pegs? Says the medrash, Eimosayhim natuim divrei Torah ba'adam, bizman shebalehen ne'esofin mehen. When the chacham passes away from this world, his Torah enters the heart of Klal Yisrael. So when did all the Torah of the Gaon enter the heart of Klal Yisrael? On Sukkos. It's like the Gaon gave tremendous amount of Torah to Klal Yisrael, but the Torah of the Gaon on Sukkos was a very special Torah. It was a very unique Torah. And that Torah entered Klal Yisrael on Sukkos. It was almost as if Hashgacha had it, that there's something so spectacular about the Torah of the Gaon on Sukkos, that it was so important that it be imbued into the hearts of Klal Yisrael. So Rebbeinu Shalom said, the Nesinas HaTorah of the Gaon has to be on Sukkos, because This is, now, I wasn't going to give the share just based on this. This is the clincher, okay? The Gra was nifter on the 5th day of Sukkos. Yeah? Who's the Yeshpizin? Aaron HaKohen. Aaron HaKohen. What is, of all the Chidushim of the Gra, what is the most known Chidush of the Gra? That Sukkos is not celebrating the miracle of Anani HaKavod, it's celebrating the return of Anani HaKavod. Yeah? That's the whole Sukkah. The whole Sukkah. I think everyone's moeded. The Iker Chidush of Sukkos. Like the Chidush that really changes, deepens your understanding of Sukkos is that the Anani HaKavod came back on Sukkos. So last night I saw a drasha of the Kapos tomorrow. Kapos tomorrow was one of the most chashuv achronim. We wrote on Yuma, we wrote on Sukkah. Hagoin Maharam ben Chaviv. Now, there are no drashas in Sefer Kapos tomorrow Manshas. There's a Sefer Hazikaroin that this is quoted from, but this is the original drasha of Kapos tomorrow, where he asks the kasha of the Gaon. He asks, why do we celebrate Sukkot in Tishrei? We should celebrate in Nisan. After all, we're commemorating Anani HaKavod. And he says the Gaon's answer. He may have been even before. He says the Gaon's teretz. He says, we're not celebrating Anani HaKavod, because then why don't we celebrate Mon? Why don't we celebrate? We're celebrating the return. And why did the Anani HaKavod return? And whose chus? He says in the chus of Aaron HaKohen. So it's not only the Gaon was nifter on Sukkos, the Gaon was nifter on the Yoshbizin of Aaron HaKohen, which is the yisoid of the whole Chiddush of the Gaon. So it could be there's a significance to the fact that the Gaon's Yahrtzeit is Sukkos. Reb Tzadok HaKohen writes that why is it that the Yahrtzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu is a fast day, and the Yahrtzeit of the Rashbi is a day of Simcha. So he says because Moshe was a chacham from the Torah Shebachsav. So when Moshe passed away, nothing happened to Klal Yisrael. We have his Torah; it's written down. But when a chacham from the Torah Shebal Peh passed away, it's a simcha because his Torah is ingrained in the hearts of Klal Yisrael. Divrei chachamim kador voinos. So we said Rabbi Kiva was nifter on Yom Kippur. Rabbi Kiva is the whole Torah Shebal Peh. So Yom Kippur is taka Yom Matan Torah, Yom Chasunosai. And on the day of the P'tira of the Rashbi, all the Torah of the Rashbi was ingrained in Klal Yisrael. And could it be that on the day of the P'tira of the Gaon, all the Chidushei Torah of the Gaon are ingrained in Klal Yisrael, especially the Chidush of Sukkos, and the Yikar Chidush of Sukkos is the return of Anani HaKavod. Why? It's Chos Aroin. So of course the Gaon's Yom HaDehilula is the night of the Shpizin of Aaron HaKohen. So once I had that I decided to say the shiur on that. Okay, so we should be zoicha to learn all the Torah of the Gaon, and especially the chidushim b'nagea the Yom Tif of Sukkos. By the way, the Gaon has another beautiful chidush on Sukkos that the Gaon says that there are 5 moitzois hapeh, and the word sukkah samach vav chaf hey represents 4 of the. You have the tongue, you have the palate, you have the throat, you have the teeth, you have the lips, and the word sukkah represents every part of the mouth except for the lashon. Why? Because sukkah protects from lashon hara. That's what it means. Titzbeneim besukkah meiriv l'shainos. So this is all. A lot of the yisoidos on sukkahs come from the Gaon. So, Zchusa Yagin Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael. Shkaya.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.